The pastor's voice boomed through the sanctuary. All the mothers, please stand. It was Mother's Day. Sunday, May 2023, and I stood up in the back row with my two babies, Caleb, 8 years old, and Zion, 6. They looked like royalty in their cream and gold outfits. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. finishing. But when I rose to my feet, I felt it. The stare. 3 rows ahead, Sister Margaret turned in her seat and looked at me with that expression. The one that said I was a warning, not a mother. The one that said, single mom, the way some people say sinner. I should have known right then that something was coming. But I didn't realize how bad it would get. That Tuesday, my phone rang at 8:30 in the evening. Sister Margaret. My stomach dropped before I even answered. Jasmine, honey, we need to talk about the mother-daughter retreat. The way she said honey felt like a threat wrapped in sugar. Several mothers have expressed concern about you being in leadership this year. Given your situation. There it was. My situation. Being abandoned by my husband was now my situation. We're asking that you step down from leadership. Of course, Zion can still come, but we feel it's best if you attend as a participant, not a leader. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put the phone down. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my small apartment while my babies slept in the next room, and around 2 a.m. I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened my grandmother's Bible. Mama Essie had passed 5 years ago, but her worn leather Bible sat on my nightstand, filled with her handwritten prayers in the margins. I flipped through the pages looking for comfort, looking for anything that would help me make sense of why the church I'd served my entire life was treating me like I was contagious. That's when I saw it. Tucked between the pages of Isaiah 54, there was a folded piece of paper. Old. Yellowed. The edges were brittle. I opened it carefully and my breath caught in my throat. It was a letter, written in 1971, addressed to the church leadership of Greater Hope Missionary Baptist Church. And it was from my grandmother. Dear Pastor and Board of Deacons, I am writing to formally request that I be allowed to continue teaching Sunday school despite my recent divorce. I understand there are concerns about my influence on the youth, but I assure you that my commitment to biblical teaching remains unwavering. My hands started shaking. I kept reading, and with each line, my world tilted on its axis. I respectfully decline your suggestion that I sit in a separate section designated for unwed and divorced women. My children and I will continue to worship in the section where my mother sat, where I was dedicated as an infant. I couldn't breathe. My grandmother, the pillar of Greater Hope, the woman everyone revered as practically a saint, had walked this exact same road. She'd been judged, excluded, treated like she needed to be quarantined from the rest of the congregation. I frantically searched through the Bible and found 2 more letters, both pleading her case to a church that wanted to make her invisible. In the margins next to one letter, she'd written in faded blue ink, "They will not break me. God sees me even when they refuse to." That's when I knew. This wasn't just happening to me. This was a pattern. A generational wound that had been festering in this church for over 50 years. And if I didn't do something, if I just disappeared quietly like they wanted, some other woman, some other granddaughter, would find herself standing in the back of the sanctuary 30 years from now, wondering if she was worthy of being called a mother. But I didn't know what to do. I was exhausted, outnumbered, and barely holding on financially as it was. How do you fight an entire church when you can barely fight to keep your lights on? Let me back up and tell you how I got here, because my story didn't start with shame. It started with love, or what I thought was love. My name is Jasmine Porter. I grew up in Greater Hope. My grandmother, Mama Essie, was one of the founding mothers of this church back in 1968. She used to tell me stories about how they started with 17 people meeting in someone's living room, how they saved and sacrificed to buy this building, how every brick represented somebody's faith and somebody's dream. I thought I knew her whole story. Turns out, I only knew the version that had been sanitized for church history. I met Marcus Thompson when I was 22. He was visiting from Atlanta, singing with a traveling gospel group that performed at our church's anniversary celebration. handsome, talented, and he could quote scripture like he'd written it himself. After the service, he walked right up to me and said, "Proverbs 31 speaks of a virtuous woman. I've been praying for you my whole life. I was young. I was flattered." And when he talked about building a ministry together, about the kind of family he wanted to create, about honoring God in our marriage, I believed every word. My grandmother had warned me, "Baby, pray more and plan longer," she'd said. But I thought I knew better. I thought his ability to preach meant his character was solid. We were married within 6 months. Caleb was born a year later, and for about 18 months, it really was beautiful. Marcus was attentive, present, everything a young father should be. But then something shifted. The traveling became more frequent, the phone calls got shorter, the excuses got longer. He started missing Caleb's milestones, first steps, first words, first day of preschool. When I was 7 months pregnant with Zion, I found the messages. I wasn't snooping. His phone lit up while he was in the shower, and I saw a text preview that made my blood run cold. A woman in Houston named Keisha, another in Memphis named Simone, and one in Atlanta just 20 minutes from our apartment named Tasha. I opened his phone with shaking hands. The messages went back months, photos, plans, promises he'd made to them that sounded exactly like the promises he'd made to me. The confrontation was ugly. I waited until Caleb was asleep, and then I laid the phone on the kitchen table between us. "Explain this," I said, my voice eerily calm. Marcus didn't even try to deny it. He said I'd gotten boring after Caleb was born, that I didn't understand the pressure of his ministry, that if I'd been more supportive, more exciting, more understanding of his needs, he wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. "You're pregnant, and you're blaming me for your affairs?" I asked, still somehow hoping he'd realize how insane he sounded. "I'm not blaming you. I'm explaining reality. This is what happens when a woman stops being a wife and only wants to be a mother." He left 2 weeks before Zion was born, just packed his bags one afternoon and walked out. Signed away his parental rights to both children, paid 3 months of child support, and then changed his number. The last I heard, he was in Texas, married to a woman from one of the churches where he'd performed. Apparently, she was exciting enough. That was 6 years ago. And the church? The church that had celebrated our wedding with a reception in the fellowship hall? The church where we dedicated Caleb as an infant? They didn't know what to do with me. Marcus had been the star, the talented singer with the beautiful voice who could preach a mini sermon between songs. I was just the girl who'd grown up there. So when he left and I stayed, they looked at me with questions in their eyes. "What did you do to make him leave? Why couldn't you keep your marriage together? Are you sure you're telling us the whole story?" Nobody said those things out loud, but I felt them in every conversation, every glance, every suddenly too busy response when I asked for help. Sister Patricia was the first to say something directly. It was about 6 months after Marcus left, and I was sitting in my usual spot, the spot where my grandmother had sat for 40 years, where my mother had sat, where I'd been dedicated as a baby. Sister Patricia slid into the pew next to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Jasmine, honey, I've been meaning to mention something. Some of the sisters and I were talking, and we thought it might be less confusing if you sat in the single sisters section. Just so people don't have the wrong idea about your status, you know? We want to help you find a good Christian man eventually, and sitting with the families might send the wrong message." I stared at her. "This is where my family has sat for 55 years. I understand, honey. But you're not really a family in the traditional sense anymore, are you? You're a single woman. It's just about being in the right place for where you are in life." I kept sitting where my grandmother had sat. But after that, I noticed people leaving a buffer of empty seats around me, like divorce was contagious and they might catch it if they sat too close. Then came the Mothers' Board meeting, where Sister Margaret made it clear they needed stable family examples to work with the youth ministry. I'd been teaching Sunday school since I was 19, taught every age from toddlers to teenagers, helped plan Vacation Bible School for 6 years straight, mentored teenage girls through breakups and college applications and faith crises. But suddenly, My qualifications were questionable. "We're not saying you can't serve," Sister Joyce had added, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We're just saying that children need to see intact families as their role models. We wouldn't want the girls thinking that divorce is normal or acceptable." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. But I stayed quiet. I told myself they'd come around, that if I just kept my head down, kept serving, kept proving myself, eventually they'd see I was still the same person I'd always been. I was wrong. But I didn't realize how wrong until that phone call about the retreat. The financial battles were the worst because they were completely invisible. Nobody at church saw me lying awake at night, calculating whether I could afford to tithe and also buy Caleb the new shoes he desperately needed for school. His toes were cramped in the old ones, but new sneakers cost $40, and $40 was also half of my electric bill. Nobody knew that the reason I always brought those elaborate homemade dishes to church dinners wasn't because I was being extra generous. It was because that casserole had to feed my family for 3 days. So I made enough to serve the church and take home leftovers without it looking like I was taking handouts. Nobody understood that when I smiled during testimony service and said, "God is good," I meant it. But I was also crying in my car on the way home because the rent was due in 3 days and I was $217 short. I worked 45 hours a week at the fabric store downtown. My boss, Mrs. Chen, was kind, but running a small business herself. So there were no benefits, no sick days, no cushion. On Saturday mornings, I cleaned houses for 3 families in the suburbs. One of them, Mrs. Patterson, would sometimes forget a $20 bill on the counter with a note that said, "For the kids." And I'd cry in her bathroom before I left because that $20 meant Caleb and Zion could have a real birthday party that year instead of just cake at home. My mother watched the kids when she could, but her diabetes was getting worse. Some days, she was too tired to keep up with 2 energetic children. Some days, I came home to find her asleep on the couch while Caleb made sandwiches for himself and Zion, and my 8-year-old son would look up at me with eyes too old for his face and say, "It's okay, Mommy, I got it." An 8-year-old shouldn't have to get it, but mine did, because I had no other choice. There were nights when I'd stand in the bathroom after putting the kids to bed, after I'd helped with homework, read bedtime stories, said prayers, checked under the bed for monsters, and promised, "Yes, Mommy will be here when you wake up." And I'd turn on the water so they couldn't hear me, and I'd whisper scream at God, "I'm trying, I'm doing everything right. I'm raising these babies in church, teaching them your word, working myself to the bone to keep us fed and housed. Why is it still so hard? Why do I have to fight alone?" But I never let anyone at church see that. I'd learned quickly that being a single mother meant you had to be twice as good to be seen as half as worthy. So my children were always perfectly dressed, always well-behaved, always on time. I never asked for help, never showed weakness, never gave anyone ammunition to say I couldn't handle it. The isolation was suffocating. But what choice did I have? After I found Mama Essie's letters that night, I couldn't stop thinking about them. The next morning, I called my mother. "Mama, did you know about this? About what they did to Grandma?" There was a long pause. Too long. "Baby, come over tonight after you put the kids to bed. There's more you need to see." I got a neighbor to sit with Caleb and Zion, Mrs. Thompson from downstairs, who always said yes when I asked and never made me feel like a burden. And I drove to my mother's apartment. She was waiting at the kitchen table with a manila envelope I'd never seen before. "Your grandmother made me promise not to show you this unless you needed it," Mama said, sliding the envelope across the table. She said, "If my grandbaby ever walks this road, she'll need to know she comes from a line of women who survived it. But only tell her when the weight gets too heavy to bear alone." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were more letters, dozens of them. My grandmother's entire paper trail of fighting to be seen as worthy by a church that wanted to push her to the margins. Letter after letter, year after year, 1971, 1972, 1974. Some were requests to serve. Some were responses to accusations. Some were just painful. In one from 1973, she wrote, "I have served this church faithfully for 12 years. I have taught Sunday school, cleaned the sanctuary, cooked for every function, and given my tithe even when my children needed shoes. And yet you question my fitness to serve because my husband chose to abandon his family. Please tell me, what exactly did I do wrong except trust the wrong man? Why didn't you tell me?" I asked through tears. "Why didn't anyone tell me Grandpa left?" "Because she was ashamed," my mother said softly. "Not of being divorced, she got over that. She was ashamed that she'd hidden it so well that even her own granddaughter grew up thinking she'd had a perfect life. She wanted you to know her strength, not her struggle. But then you got divorced, and I saw history repeating itself, and I realized maybe you needed to know both." I read through every letter. In one, she wrote to the pastor about being asked to sit separately. "I am respectfully declining your suggestion. My children and I will worship where my mother worshiped, where I was dedicated, where I raised my own children in faith. If my divorce makes others uncomfortable, perhaps they should examine why the presence of a single mother threatens them more than the absence of mercy in their hearts." My grandmother had a spine of steel, and I'd never known it because by the time I was old enough to remember her, the church had given up trying to break her and had simply accepted her. She'd outlasted their judgment. But could I? "There's something else," my mother said. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message. It was from Mother Gloria, 87 years old, my grandmother's best friend, one of the few founding members still alive. The text said, "Tell Jasmine I see what they're doing. I saw it happen to Essie. I won't stay silent this time. I'm too old to protect comfortable lies." My heart started racing. What does that mean? She asked Pastor Williams for time during the 55th anniversary celebration. She's going to speak during the historical presentation. Speak about what? My mother looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Part hope, part fear. She's going to tell the truth about what happened to your grandmother and what's happening to you. I felt something shift in my chest. Hope, maybe, or terror, or both. "Mama, what if she makes it worse? What if they turn on her too?" "Baby, Mother Gloria is 87 years old. She buried 3 children, a husband, and her best friend. She's not afraid of a church board." My mother took my hand. "The question is, are you ready for what comes next?" I didn't know. But I had 3 weeks until the anniversary to figure it out. Those 3 weeks were some of the hardest of my life. Sister Margaret avoided me at church, wouldn't even make eye contact. The whispers got louder. One Sunday, I sat down in my usual spot, and the woman next to me actually picked up her purse and Bible and moved 3 rows back. Just stood up, gave me a look that could freeze water, and walked away. Deacon Morris pulled me aside after that same service. "Sister Jasmine, people are talking. They're saying you've been difficult, resentful about the retreat decision. Maybe it would be better if you took some time away from teaching until things settle down." "I haven't said a word to anyone," I replied, my voice carefully controlled. "Sometimes it's not what you say. It's the attitude, the spirit you carry." He adjusted his glasses, unable to meet my eyes. "Just think about it. Prayer and humility can fix a lot of problems." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him where his concern for attitude and spirit was when Marcus abandoned his children. I wanted to demand why humility was only required of the people being hurt, never the people doing the hurting. But I didn't. I just nodded and walked away, because what else could I do? The youth pastor called me the following Tuesday. "Hey Jasmine, I wanted to give you a heads up. We found someone else to coordinate VBS this year. We felt like you had a lot on your plate, and we didn't want to burden you." VBS, Vacation Bible School. I'd coordinated it for 6 consecutive years. The kids loved it. I loved it. And now they were taking it away and framing it as doing me a favor. "I see," was all I could manage. "We appreciate everything you've done, though. You're still welcome to volunteer in a different capacity if you'd like." A different capacity. Translation, something less visible. Something where my situation wouldn't be quite so obvious. That night, I sat in my car in the church parking lot, empty except for me, and I pulled out the crooked wooden cross Caleb had made me 3 years ago in Sunday school. He'd been 5 years old, and his teacher had given the kids an assignment: make something for the person you love most. Caleb had glued googly eyes on a wooden cross for some reason only a 5-year-old brain could explain, and he'd painted "My Hero" in shaky letters across the front. One of the googly eyes had already fallen off, making it look even more lopsided. Teacher said to make something for the person we love most, he'd explained with such pride. That's you, Mommy. You're my hero. I kept it in my purse. On the hardest days like this, I'd hold that crooked little cross and remember that to 2 people in this world, I was everything. Even if the church thought I was nothing, my children thought I was a hero. I didn't know if that was enough, but it had to be. 3 days before the anniversary, my mother called. Mother Gloria wants to see you. I drove to the assisted living facility where Mother Gloria had moved after her hip surgery last year. She was sitting in her favorite chair by the window, dressed in a royal purple suit even though she wasn't going anywhere. Mother Gloria believed in being presentable at all times, because you never know when the Lord is watching. Sit down, baby, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. I sat. She studied me for a long moment, and I felt like she could see straight through to all the pain I'd been hiding. Your grandmother was the strongest woman I ever knew, she finally said. But for a while there, I thought they were going to break her. 1971, 1972. Those were hard years. Her husband left. The church turned on her. She had 3 babies and 2 jobs and no support except me and a handful of other women who'd been through it. What made her stay? I asked. Mother Gloria smiled. Spite at first. She was too stubborn to give them the satisfaction of running her off. But then it became something else. It became about making sure the next single mother wouldn't have to fight as hard. She never wanted another woman to feel what she felt. But they're doing it again, I whispered. To me. Right now. I know, baby. I see it. She leaned forward. That's why I'm going to speak on Sunday. I'm going to tell them exactly what they did to your grandmother and what they're doing to you. My stomach clenched. Mother Gloria, what if they don't listen? What if they just get angry at you? For the first time, I saw something in her expression that scared me. Doubt, just a flicker, but it was there. I'm an old woman, Jasmine. I don't have as much power as I used to. Some people respect me, but others well. They've been waiting for me to die so they can change things the way they want. She shook her head. I don't know if speaking up will help or make things worse, but I'm going to do it anyway because I promised your grandmother I wouldn't let history repeat itself without a fight. What if it costs you? I asked. She smiled sadly. What are they going to do, kick an 87-year-old woman out of church? If that's who they are, then maybe this church isn't worth saving. She took my hand. But I need you to be ready, baby. Because when I speak that truth, there's no taking it back. Your private pain is going to become public knowledge. Everyone will know. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Caleb and Zion, about the crooked cross in my purse, about my grandmother's letters, about all the women who would come after me if I stayed silent. Yes, I said, I'm ready. But I wasn't sure if I was lying. The Sunday of the 55th anniversary arrived, and I almost didn't go. I stood in my apartment that morning, staring at my closet, trying to decide if I had the strength to walk into that sanctuary and face what was coming. Caleb came up behind me. Mommy, why are you crying? I hadn't realized I was. I wiped my face quickly. Just thinking about Grandma Essie, baby. The one who went to heaven? Yeah. He was quiet for a moment, then said something that nearly broke me. Do you think she's proud of you? I turned and knelt down so I was at his eye level. Why do you ask that? Because I heard Sister Patricia tell her friend that Grandma Essie would be disappointed if she saw how you were acting. What does that mean? I felt rage flood through me, hot and sudden and righteous. They'd said that in front of my child? I took Caleb's face in my hands. Listen to me. Your Grandma Essie loved me, and she would be proud of me, not because I'm perfect, but because I keep showing up even when it's hard. You understand? He nodded, but I could tell he didn't fully believe me. That's what finally made my decision. If I didn't go to church that day, if I let them make me disappear, my son would grow up thinking his mother was someone to be ashamed of. We went. The sanctuary was packed, special music, a visiting bishop from Atlanta. All the founding families were being honored with plaques and recognition. I sat in the back with Caleb and Zion, not expecting to be acknowledged. We weren't important enough anymore. The program flowed normally. The choir sang 3 selections. The bishop preached about legacy and faithfulness. Then Pastor Williams introduced the historical presentation. And now, one of our living legends, one of our founding members, Mother Gloria Richardson, has asked to share some reflections on our church's journey. Mother Gloria walked slowly to the podium. Every step looked painful, but she refused help. At 87, draped in that royal purple suit with a matching hat, she commanded the room simply by existing. The sanctuary went completely silent. She gripped the podium, took a breath, and began. Today, we honor our founding mothers and fathers. We talk about their sacrifice, their faith, their vision. But there's a story we haven't told. A story about one of our strongest founding mothers, Mother Essie Porter. My heart stopped. Mother Essie was my best friend for 60 years. Many of you remember her as a pillar of this church. She taught Sunday school for 40 years, served on the Mothers Board for 30, never missed a service, never wavered in her faith, never stopped giving of herself to this ministry. People were nodding, remembering, smiling. But what some of you don't know, what we didn't talk about back then because we were too ashamed to admit it, is that Mother Essie was a single mother, divorced, raising 3 children alone. The sanctuary erupted, murmurs, gasps, heads turning to look at each other in shock. Mother Gloria held up her hand, and she faced judgment from this very congregation, this church that she helped build, this church that she poured her life into. I felt every eye in the sanctuary starting to turn toward me, but I couldn't move. I was frozen. Some of you remember. Her voice got stronger. And if you're honest with yourselves, you'll admit you were part of it. We questioned her ability to teach our children. We suggested she sit separately, away from the real families. We made her feel like she had to be perfect just to be acceptable. We made her prove her worthiness over and over and over again, while offering her no grace, no support, no compassion. Sister Margaret's face had gone pale. And I'm here today to say, Mother Gloria's voice cracked with emotion. We were wrong. We were so wrong. Tears were streaming down my face, but I didn't wipe them away. Mother Essie was one of the most godly women I ever knew. Her divorce didn't disqualify her from service. Her struggle didn't diminish her worth. Her single motherhood didn't make her less than any other member of this body. If anything, it proved her faith was real, because she kept showing up, kept serving, kept loving this church even when we didn't love her the way Christ commanded us to. The silence in the sanctuary was deafening. And I'm standing here today because I see us doing it again. Mother Gloria turned and looked directly at me. Sister Jasmine Porter, would you please stand? My legs were shaking so badly I didn't think they'd hold me, but I stood. Caleb grabbed one hand. Zion grabbed the other. This is Essie's granddaughter, and I have watched, with my own eyes in my own lifetime, this church treat her exactly the way we treated her grandmother. We've judged her for a situation she didn't create. We've excluded her from leadership. We've made her prove herself over and over while offering her nothing but scrutiny. I saw Sister Patricia put her head in her hands. The Bible tells us to defend the widow and the fatherless, to care for the vulnerable, to show mercy to those who are struggling. But what have we done? Her voice rose. We've added to this sister's burdens. We've whispered about her behind her back. We've questioned her character. We've treated her like she's a disease to be quarantined instead of a sister to be supported. Pastor Williams sat frozen in his chair on the platform. I'm 87 years old. I probably won't live to see another anniversary. Mother Gloria's voice softened. But I want to use whatever time and influence I have left to say this. We must do better. We must be better. Single mothers are not problems to be managed or mistakes to be hidden. They are our sisters. They are daughters of God. And they deserve our love, our help, our respect, not our judgment. She turned back to me. Jasmine, baby, come here. I walked down that aisle on legs that barely worked, my children following behind me. Every face I passed showed a different emotion: shame, anger, shock, recognition. When I reached the front, Mother Gloria took my hands in hers. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You've carried burdens that would have broken most people. You've worked 2 jobs to keep your children fed and housed. You've kept your faith when it would have been easier to walk away. You've loved your children fiercely, served this church faithfully, and held your head high through trials that were never yours to bear. She turned to face the congregation. If we're going to celebrate our history, we need to learn from our mistakes. Let's not repeat the sins of the past. Let's be the church we're called to be, a refuge for the weary, a family for the lonely, a source of strength for those who are barely holding on. Then she did something I'll never forget. She opened her purse and pulled out 3 envelopes. Sister Jasmine, these are from women in this church who want to do better. One contains a check to cover your children's summer camp fees. One contains a 6-month membership to the grocery co-op that delivers weekly. And one contains signed commitments from 12 women, 12 sisters who want to take turns babysitting 1 night a week so you can rest, so you can breathe, so you can remember what it feels like to not carry everything alone. My knees buckled. Mother Gloria caught me. You're not invisible, sister. You're not alone. And you never should have been. The sanctuary erupted. Some people were standing, applauding, crying. Others sat in stunned silence. A few looked angry. But the sound of that applause, the sound of people finally seeing me, was overwhelming. Pastor Williams stood and approached the podium, his face a mixture of conviction and shame. Mother Gloria is right. We have failed Sister Jasmine. We have failed the call to be Christ's hands and feet. And starting today, right now, that changes. He looked out at the congregation. We're going to create a single parent support ministry. We're going to establish a fund to help with emergencies. We're going to assign partner families to walk alongside single mothers in this congregation. And we're going to make sure that no woman, no person in this church ever feels invisible, unwanted, or unworthy because of their circumstances. The applause grew louder, but I saw faces in the crowd that weren't clapping. Faces that looked resentful, resistant. Change wasn't going to be easy or complete, but for the first time in 6 years, I felt seen. The days following that Sunday were overwhelming. Some people embraced the change immediately. Sister Patricia came to my door Tuesday evening holding a casserole, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she said. I was wrong. I was protecting my own comfort, my own reputation, instead of living like Christ. Can you forgive me? I invited her in. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about her own sister, divorced and struggling in another state, whom she distanced herself from because she was afraid people would think less of her by association. I abandoned someone I love because I was worried about what people would think, she said, her voice breaking. And I did the same thing to you. I'm so ashamed. But Sister Margaret, she didn't come. She didn't call. At church the following Sunday, she avoided me completely. I'd catch her eye across the fellowship hall, and she'd turn away like I wasn't there. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The church launched the Single Parent Support Ministry. Families started signing up to partner with single mothers. The grocery deliveries began. The babysitting rotation was organized. My life became measurably easier. I could eat real meals, my kids got to go to camp, I had 1 night a week where I could take a bath and read a book without feeling guilty. But the coldness from Sister Margaret gnawed at me. I knew Mother Gloria's speech had humiliated her publicly. I knew she was probably hurting. But I also knew that if we didn't address this, it would fester and poison everything. So 3 weeks after the anniversary, I waited for her in the church parking lot after Sunday service. I saw her walking to her car, head down, moving fast like she was trying to escape. "Sister Margaret," I called out, "can we please talk?" She stopped but didn't turn around. "I don't think there's anything to say." I walked around to face her. "There's everything to say. You tried to exclude my daughter from the mother-daughter retreat because of choices I didn't make. You questioned my ability to serve God because a man abandoned me. Don't you think we need to talk about that?" Her jaw tightened. I was protecting the ministry. I was protecting the children from being confused about what a family should look like. "My family looks like a mother who works 2 jobs to keep her children fed," I said, my voice steady. "It looks like a woman who cries in the bathroom so her babies don't see her break. It looks like faith that survives when everything else falls apart. If that's confusing, Sister Margaret, then maybe your definition of family is too small." Her face crumpled. For the first time, I saw past the armor to the pain underneath. "My own mother was a single parent," she whispered, tears starting to fall. "My father left when I was 8. And I watched people at our church, the church we'd attended my whole life, treat her like she was trash, like she'd done something wrong, like being abandoned was her fault." I stayed quiet, letting her continue. I watched her struggle. I watched her work herself to exhaustion. I watched her get passed over for leadership positions because she wasn't a complete family. And I swore I would never be like her. I would marry the right man, build the right life, be the right kind of woman, so I'd never be treated that way. Fresh tears streamed down her face. And then when I saw you, when I saw your situation, all I could see was my mother. And instead of having compassion, all I felt was fear. Fear that if I supported you, people would think less of me. Fear that defending single mothers would somehow diminish everything I'd worked so hard to build. Her voice broke completely. "You reminded me of everything I was running from. And instead of loving you like Christ commanded, I tried to push you away so I wouldn't have to face my own shame about how I'd treated my mother. I felt my anger drain away. I understood that pain. The pain of trying so hard to be different from someone that you end up hurting people who remind you of them." "Did you ever tell your mother you were sorry?" I asked gently. "She died 3 years ago. I never got the chance." Sister Margaret looked at me with devastated eyes. "Please don't make me live with 2 regrets. Please let me apologize to you while I still can." What could I say to that? "I forgive you," I said. And despite everything, I meant it. We stood in that parking lot and cried together. 2 women carrying different versions of the same wound, finally able to put it down. "I don't expect you to trust me right away," Sister Margaret said. "But I want to do better. I need to do better." "Then do better," I said simply. "Not just for me. For every single mother who comes after me." She nodded. "I will. I promise." And slowly, imperfectly, she kept that promise. 6 months after Mother Gloria's speech, things had changed. Not perfectly, not completely, but measurably. The single-parent support ministry was thriving. The babysitting rotation had expanded to include single fathers too. The financial assistance fund had helped 3 families avoid eviction. But there were still whispers. Still people who thought the church had gone too far in supporting single parents. Still members who quietly left because they didn't like the direction things were heading. Change is never clean. It's messy and incomplete and requires constant vigilance. The youth ministry asked me back, not just to help, but to mentor teenage girls specifically because of my story, not in spite of it. "These girls need to know that life doesn't always go according to plan," the youth pastor said. "They need to see that a woman can face betrayal and hardship and still be strong, still be faithful, still be whole." I started leading a small group for teenage girls every Thursday night. We talked about everything: boys, college, faith, family, disappointment, resilience. One girl, Trinity, told me after our 3rd meeting, "My parents got divorced last year, and I thought my life was over. But seeing that you survived and you're okay, it gives me hope." That's when I understood. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was a bridge for others. Sister Margaret and I started having coffee once a month. She'd ask about Caleb and Zion, share stories about her own grandchildren, and slowly, cautiously, we built something that looked like friendship. She also became one of the fiercest advocates for single parents, using her influence with the Mothers Board to make sure policies actually changed, not just words. "I can't undo the past," she told me one afternoon over coffee, "but I can make sure the future is different. For you, for your children, for every single parent who walks through those church doors." Women started coming to me, quietly, privately, with their own stories. Affairs they'd survived, divorces they'd hidden, financial struggles they'd never shared because they thought they'd be judged. "You made it safe to be honest," one sister told me with tears in her eyes. "You stood there and refused to be ashamed even when we tried to shame you. That gave me permission to stop hiding." I realized my grandmother had done the same thing. She'd stood her ground, not just for herself, but so the next woman wouldn't have to fight as hard. And Mother Gloria had spoken up so I wouldn't be alone. And now I was doing the same for the women coming after me. It was a legacy, painful and hard-won, but a legacy nonetheless. Mother Gloria's health started declining in October. I visited her every week at the assisted living facility. Sometimes we'd talk. Sometimes I'd just sit with her while she dozed in her chair. "You did it," I told her during one visit. "You changed things." She smiled weakly. "We did it. You, me, your grandmother. We all played our part. But there's still work to do, baby. There will always be work to do." "I know. Promise me you'll keep telling the story. Promise me you won't let them forget why this mattered." "I promise." Mother Gloria passed away on a Tuesday in early December. She was 88 years old. At her funeral, the church was packed, standing room only. Pastor Williams talked about her decades of service, her unwavering faith, her courage to speak truth even when it cost her. Then he did something unexpected. He asked me to speak. I walked to that podium with shaking hands, looked out at the sea of faces and said, "Mother Gloria told the truth because she couldn't stand to watch history repeat itself. She risked her reputation, her comfort, her standing in this church because she believed single mothers deserved better. Because she believed I deserved better." I pulled out one of my grandmother's letters, the one from 1971 that I'd found in her Bible. My grandmother wrote this 52 years ago. Listen to what she said. "I have served this church faithfully for 12 years. I have given everything I have. And yet you question my fitness to serve because my husband chose to abandon his family. Please tell me, what exactly did I do wrong except trust the wrong man?" The sanctuary was silent. For over 50 years, single mothers in this church carried that question. What did we do wrong? And the answer Mother Gloria gave us was, nothing. We did nothing wrong. We were abandoned. We were betrayed. But we were not diminished. We were not disqualified. We were and are daughters of God, worthy of love, support, and respect. I looked directly at the single mothers I knew were scattered throughout the congregation. Mother Gloria's legacy isn't just in the words she spoke. It's in what we do next. It's in whether we keep fighting for justice and mercy. It's in whether we make sure no woman ever feels invisible again. After the funeral, at the repast in the fellowship hall, a young woman approached me. She was 19, visibly pregnant, wearing an oversized sweatshirt like she was trying to hide. "Everyone's been looking at me like I'm ruined," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "Like my life is over because my boyfriend left. I was going to stop coming to church, but then I heard you speak at Mother Gloria's funeral, and I thought maybe there's hope." I took her hand and led her to a quiet corner. "What's your name?" "Alicia." "Alicia, your life is not over. It's just different than you planned. And different can still be beautiful." I pulled out my phone and showed her the contact information for the Single Parent Support Ministry. "These are women who will walk with you. They'll help you find childcare, help you with baby supplies, help you navigate everything you're about to face. You don't have to do this alone." Her eyes filled with tears. "Really? Really? I'm going to personally make sure you're connected with someone this week. But more than that," I squeezed her hand, "I'm going to walk with you. You're not going to be invisible, because that's what we do now. We hold each other up. She cried, I cried, and I thought about Mama Essie, about Mother Gloria, about every woman who'd fought to make space for the next one. Today, I'm still a single mother. I still work 2 jobs, though I was recently promoted to assistant manager at the fabric store, which came with a small raise and actual health insurance. I still struggle sometimes to make ends meet. I still get tired. And yes, some people at church still look at me sideways. Some still whisper. Some still think the church went too far in supporting single parents. But I'm not invisible anymore, and I'm not ashamed. I teach Sunday school every Sunday morning. I lead the Thursday night girls group. I serve on the Single Parent Support Ministry Committee. I share my story whenever someone needs to hear that survival is possible, that faith can endure betrayal, that you can be whole even when your family is broken. Caleb is 9 now, thriving in school, playing basketball, asking deep questions about God and life and why his father left. I tell him the truth, always. Your daddy made choices that hurt us deeply. But those choices don't define you, and they don't define me. We're defined by the God who held us when we were breaking, who provided when we had nothing, who turned our pain into purpose. Zion is 7, fierce and confident in ways I'm still learning to be. Last week she told me, "Mommy, I'm glad it's just us. We're a perfect team." And we are. My battles aren't over. Being a single mother in a church community that's still learning how to offer grace, it's ongoing work. Some days are hard. Some days I still cry in my car. Some days I still wonder if I'm enough, but I'm not fighting alone anymore. And that makes all the difference. Sister Patricia and I are close now. Sister Margaret and I have coffee monthly, and she's become a second grandmother to my children. The women from the support ministry have become my chosen family, the ones who show up when Caleb is sick and I have to work, the ones who bring groceries when money is tight, the ones who pray with me when the weight feels unbearable. Last month, the church asked me to speak at the women's retreat. The theme was Unashamed, Walking in Your Truth. I stood before 200 women and told them everything: the betrayal, the poverty, the judgment, the invisibility, the battles no one saw. And I told them about my grandmother's letters, about discovering I came from a line of women who survived, about learning that struggle isn't a sign of weakness, it's proof of strength. I used to think I had to be perfect to be worthy, I told them. I thought if I could just work hard enough, be good enough, hide my struggles well enough, eventually people would accept me. But God taught me something better. I was already worthy. His daughter doesn't earn her worth. She inherits it. I held up Mama Essie's worn Bible. My grandmother wrote in the margins of Isaiah 54:4, "Do not be afraid, you will not be put to shame." She underlined it 3 times because she needed to believe it 3 times harder. I showed them Caleb's crooked cross with one googly eye missing. And my son made me this when he was 5 because he sees what I couldn't see for a long time. I'm already a hero. Not because I'm perfect, because I kept going when quitting would have been easier. The women wept. They stood. They testified to their own invisible battles. By the end of that retreat, 17 women had come forward to share stories they'd been hiding for years. 5 disclosed abuse. 4 admitted financial desperation. 2 said they'd been planning to leave the church entirely because they felt so alone. "You saved my life," one woman told me afterward, gripping my hands. I thought God had forgotten me. But seeing you stand there, still faithful after everything, it reminded me that God sees the battles no one else sees. That's my grandmother's legacy. That's Mother Gloria's legacy. And now it's mine. Some churches change, some don't. But I changed. And that had to be enough. Sisters, if you're walking this road right now, if you're the single mother in the sanctuary, battling invisibility and judgment while trying to hold on to faith, hear me clearly. Your struggle is not your shame. God sees every battle you fight in the dark. He knows every sacrifice no one witnesses. He counts every tear you cry in silence. He celebrates every morning you get up and do it again, even though you're exhausted. And He is not disappointed in you. The same God who never left Ruth when she was widowed and destitute, who provided for Hagar when she was cast out into the wilderness, who strengthened Esther when she had to risk everything. That's the God who holds you now. Your worthiness was never in question. Your value was never up for debate. The truth will set you free, not just the truth about those who hurt you, but the truth about who you are, chosen, beloved, and unashamed. If this story touched your heart, if you see yourself in these struggles, I need you to do something for me. First, hit that like button. Let's tell YouTube that stories of real faith, real struggle, and real victory matter. That single mothers deserve to be seen and celebrated, not hidden and shamed. Second, drop a comment. Tell me, what invisible battle are you fighting right now? What part of this story resonated with your soul? Your testimony might be exactly what another sister needs to hear today. Your words might be the bridge that helps someone else survive. Third, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Every Wednesday and Saturday, we share stories of African American women in the church, stories of betrayal and survival, struggle and triumph, faith tested and faith proven, stories that remind us we're not alone in our battles. And please, share this video with a sister who needs to know she's seen, a sister who needs to know she's worthy, a sister who needs to know that single motherhood is not a life sentence. It's a testimony of strength, resilience, and unshakable faith. Welcome to the Sister Circle, where we heal together, rise together, and refuse to let each other be invisible. Until next time, remember this truth. You are not alone. Your healing is valid. Your comeback is inevitable. Now let's talk in the comments. I want to hear your story.